When did you last play? I mean, really play. The kind where you get lost in time and it feels effortless, where you're fully present, just having fun. For many adults, if we're being honest with ourselves, we have to think really hard just to remember the last time we had a really good time, just playing. Somewhere along the way, we got the message that play was for children, that wonder was something we were supposed to outgrow, that serious adults have serious responsibilities, and that there's really no room to schedule something frivolous as fun. But here's the thing, that message is wrong, and very wrong in a measurable, physiological, data-backed way. It turns out there's a tangible benefit to maintaining that childhood wonder and play. And that, my friends, is exactly what I'm going to be talking about today. Welcome to Fuller Living, your space for empowerment, inspiration, and practical health nuggets. Here you'll find relatable guidance that fits your everyday life as you journey to a fuller and healthier you. I'm your host, Dr. Ashitey. Let's dig in. Welcome back to Fuller Living, wherever you're listening from today, whether you're on a walk or whether you're driving, folding laundry, or even wondering what the heck is she talking about play and what on earth has it got to do with health? Wherever you are, however you're coming in today, I am so genuinely happy to have you here. This episode has been on my mind for a very, very long time because it's something that I see that's missing in a lot of my patients and a lot of people that I work with. And I'll tell you why in a moment. But first, I want you to do something. Think back to being a kid. Think about what it felt like when you were just playing, running around outside, no destination, building something, drawing something, imagining things. Do you remember being so absorbed in what you were doing that you forgot to be worried or stressed or self-conscious? I mean, as kids, we really don't have that, but think about it. There was something really alive about that. Unfortunately, however, as we get older, between childhood and adulthood, that aliveness gets quieter as more responsibilities come in, as our schedules fill up, and we get really good at being productive, but we fall out of that practice of play. As a physician, I've seen this play out in my patients, no pun intended. So many people I care for are exhausted, overscheduled, disconnected from that real sense of joy and lightness. They're surviving their weeks and not really living them. And when I dig a little deeper, one of the things that is often missing is they stopped playing. They stopped experiencing wonder. They've gotten into the routine of things. Well, I got responsibilities. I had things to do. That they stop the things that keep us alive. And that matters more than people realized. So today we're going to explore the science behind play and wonder and something that researchers call awe. We're going to look back on what happens in the body and mind when we engage with these experiences. And we're going to talk about what you can do practically. That's my favorite part this week to bring more of that into your life. So let's dig into it. Let's start with the science. What does research say about play? Let's take one large study, over 4,000 adults. Researchers found that playfulness was consistently linked to happiness across all age groups, not just kids, adults as well. In another study, playfulness significantly predicted positive emotion, engagement, meaning, overall sense of well-being across multiple measures that were studied. So if play is beneficial for us, and it's beneficial emotionally, why are we not doing it more consistently? Well, I can think of a few reasons. We've been socialized out of it. We've been busied out of it. We've been shamed out of it. I mean, think about it. How many times have you heard the term, you play too much? But we need to change that approach. And here's why that matters. When people allow themselves to be playful, to approach life with curiosity and lightness, they won at life. They won psychologically, they won emotionally. and overall had an overall sense of a life that was well lived. Here's what's even more cool about this. This overall well-being effect didn't disappear under pressure. So during COVID, there was one study that found that more playful individuals adopted a more optimistic outlook. They engaged in significantly higher levels of resilient coping. They coped better because they were more playful. Imagine that. Play, as it turns out, is a healthy stress response, not an escape from life. It's a tool for navigating it. All right, we've established that play is a genuine stress response. It's a tool that we use to navigate life and not escape it. Now, I want to turn our attention to something else that we see more of in children and maybe not so much as we get older. It's awe or wonder. I'm going to use both words interchangeably. It turns out that wonder is a health resource that we underutilize. You know that feeling? You're standing at the edge of the ocean and suddenly you feel very small. Or you look up at a true night sky of stars and feel so much wonder. And I remember what it felt like when I looked upon the Sahara Desert for the first time. It was phenomenal. I'm describing that moment when something is so vast, so unexpected, so beautiful that you forget yourself for a second. That, my friends, is awe. Developing kids experience this multiple times per day, and it can be amusing to watch. But it turns out that this kind of awe also has a positive effect on adults. We need more of it in our lives. And it's so important that we don't lose touch of that. For instance, there's a study that involved people recovering from COVID. Patients that experienced awe had much reduced depression symptoms. And we know long COVID and depression go hand in hand. There was another study that followed people in the community and healthcare workers and noted that people who experienced awe more frequently in their lives reported lower stress, fewer physical symptoms, and a greater overall sense of well-being. Awe helps buffer psychological and physiological stress, meaning it actually changes what's happening inside your body and not just how you feel. This can have real impacts on things like your sleep, your blood pressure, your other health indicators that we've talked about multiple times on this podcast. In fact, it feels like I talk about stress and the effect of the body every single episode. Now, I know you're probably wondering, where am I going to find awesome things in my daily mundane life? Ask no further because I have the answer. Here's an interesting fact. One of the most powerful findings on awe came from studies in nature. Military veterans who were at risk were exposed to awe-inspiring natural environments, and this improved their well-being scores, their stress-related symptoms, and it was more than what you would explain with positive emotions alone. Awe-inspiring phenomena are around us everywhere. A tree that's been standing for centuries, or a quiet river that's been flowing for thousands of years. Your steady and faithful heartbeat. It's there, but are we noticing it? Or are we so busy that we're missing all the amazing things around us? So, how exactly does awe and wonder lead to positive effects? Well, think about it. We believe that part of what awe does is it helps us zoom out. It creates what we call temporal distancing, which is the ability to step back from the immediate pressures of life and see things from a wider perspective. And here's what I find beautiful about it. Awe is free. You don't need a prescription for it. You don't need a gym membership for it. You don't need money for it. All you need is a sunrise, a walk somewhere quiet, a piece of music that stops you in your tracks, a starry night. All you need is to slow down long enough to let something large into your awareness. And it turns out that doing this intentionally, building awe into a regular practice of your life, produces measurable improvements both in your psychological health and your physical well-being. Now, let's get into some even more fun stuff. I've talked about the effects of play and awe on our emotional well being. I've talked about how it reduces stress, and I've even hinted at its ability to improve our overall physical well being. Here's where it gets even more fascinating. There was one large study done. I'm talking about almost 80,000 people studied, age 50 and above, across 19 different countries. So we're talking very large study, diverse demographics, geopolitical, socioeconomic backgrounds, all the things, right? They looked at hobby engagement, which is one of the most common and accessible forms of adult play. And here's what they found. Engaging in hobbies was associated with a 29% reduction in all cause mortality. I'm slowing down because I know there's some doctors who are listening to this and they're going to be stunned. 29% reduction in all cause mortality. People who engaged in hobbies lived longer. Their risk of dying from all kinds of diseases, all kinds of death, decreased significantly. This is not trivial. For context, that is the same range of benefit that we see with other significant lifestyle interventions. That is the same type of thing that we see with certain medications. This is huge. But here's what got my attention. That benefit wasn't just present in people who had hobbies all their lives. That benefit was in people who started hobbies later as well. So if you've been contemplating tennis, now's the time to pick up your racket. But here's the thing. People who stopped engaging in hobbies entirely saw that protective effect disappear, which means it's not about your past and what you've done. It's about what you're doing right now. Play is not frivolous. Play is medicine. Now, to my favorite part of the show, let's get practical. I love this part of the episode because this is where we turn information into actionable items, and I love a task list. So let's get into it. If play, wonder, and awe genuinely affect our stress, our resilience, our mental well being, longevity, and all the good stuff, what could that look like in real life? Well, let me give you 3 simple, practical ways to start. Number 1, protect something you just do for the joy of it. Not because it's productive or because it burns calories, just something that you genuinely enjoy. It could be music, gardening, art, maybe cooking something new if you're into that, dancing, building things, you name it. It doesn't have to be impressive. For me, it's tennis. Second, intentionally seek out awe. Build awe experience into your week. A walk somewhere with a view, a piece of music that you can really immerse yourself in, maybe watching a documentary about space, the ocean, or nature, stargazing, whatever it is, pick something, okay? Because there's research that shows that even a small, brief experience of awe can really have huge benefits. You don't have to travel to space, even though that would be wonderful. You just have to slow down enough to let something larger than your immediate to-do list into your awareness, okay? And then number 3, bring others into your play practice. This too has been linked with better mood, greater coping skills, and overall a sense of being better supported. There's something about play in a relationship that compounds the benefit. It builds connection, it creates shared joy, it reminds us that life doesn't have to be so serious all the time. Now, to our SMART goal of the week. Remember, a SMART goal is one that is specific, it is measurable, it is achievable, relevant, and time bound. So this week, your SMART goal can be this. Identify one activity you did as a child that you genuinely loved. Actually, it doesn't even have to be something that you did as a child, just something in your life that you genuinely love, and do it, or some version of it, at least once a week. Specific. So choose one activity rooted in something that you really enjoy. Measurable, it can be 20 minutes or at least once. Achievable, not something major. And I think the time that we've assigned is something that most of us can do. Relevant because we have learned that this is helpful for our health overall. And we all have the goal to live a fuller life. And that's why we're here. And time bound, we're just doing it for 7 days. But as always, when you do this practice, I want you to pay attention to how you feel and what's happening in your body. Because sometimes healing starts not with medication or protocol, but with the simple act of allowing yourself to play and allowing yourself to feel. All right, today we explored something medicine doesn't talk about nearly enough. We talked about the role of play, wonder, and awe in adult life. And we addressed how playfulness isn't something that we should outgrow. It's something that many of us have just stopped practicing. We looked at the research on awe, how even brief moments of it that are intentional can buffer our physiological stress and improve our overall well-being. And we looked at some compelling longevity data. 29% reduction in mortality is huge. Now, play is not a reward for finishing your work. Play is part of the work. That's the whole point of this episode. The work of staying well, of staying human, and building a life that is not just long, but also full. That's what fuller living is ultimately all about. Not just adding years to your life, but adding life to your years. Now, your turn. I would love to hear from you. What is one thing you used to do as a child that made you come alive? And I would like to know if it's something that you're going to do again. Let me know in the comments right here or send me a message. Share this episode as well with someone who has forgotten how to play or someone that you're wanting to pick up tennis with, hint, hint. And if this resonated so much with you, please subscribe to this podcast, leave me a review, or share it with someone who needs it. It really helps us get people into these types of conversations. So I look forward to seeing you next week. But until next time, let's get to fuller living. Well, fam, that wraps up another episode of Fuller Living, where we talk about health in a bite-sized, relatable, practical, and fun way. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about making progress one small step at a time while remaining consistent. If you found this episode helpful, please subscribe, share it with a friend who might need a little bit of inspiration, and leave me your 5-star review. And if you're in Dallas and looking for a new PCP, look me up at southwestfamilymed.com. I can't wait to meet you. Until next time, let's get to fuller living.